Today we're going to be doing a stock upgrade on my 300 Blackout. It's a Howa 1500 mini action with a heavy sporter barrel. Came with that Howa stock there. Haven't even fired it yet. Just recently got it from Cleavers and I wasn't too happy with how the stock fit. The action bolts came loose, so nice of them to check that for me when they were assembling it. And the stock was heavily touching the barrel all along here, so I've done a little bit of work there to make it fit. After I did that, I noticed that this Excl Lite popped up ready to ship from the supplier, so impulse bought one of those. So far, pretty happy with the look of it and the feel of it. It only weighs 860 odd grams. So you've got a buffer tube, adjustable length of pull here, plenty of M-lock attachments here, detachable magazine. You can change your grip as well. Comes with your sling point with it as well. Downside when it came from the supplier was that it was missing an action bolt, but I can work around that, no worries. So yeah, let's get some of these bits and pieces out of the way. So 10 round magazine and 1 bolt. I'm using the Remington 7600 2-piece mounts because I can't find myself a single piece 0 MOA mount, so lucky with that. We've got a couple of low ring mounts because I know they're pretty well going to be suited for me. The Leupold VX Freedom 3 2-7 scope, that's been on quite a few of my rifles now. And of course the Excl Lite. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get started on this. So you're going to need a couple of tools. Well, in my preference you will do. I mean, you don't need them, but I do recommend them. So one's going to be just a gun stand. Makes life a little bit easier. As you can see, mine packs in flat. It's pretty inexpensive. It's a Hoppies brand, so from memory about $80 odd or something like that. But I'll post some links in that to some of these products so you can have a bit of a look. You can get bigger, better ones that are vices and all that sort of jazz, but for what I do, this is sufficient enough. It just needs to hold the gun steady and keep it level for when I go do the scope mounting. But instead of it falling to bits, I can actually do it in this today to give you a bit of an explanation of what I'm doing, so hopefully it might help someone. Apart from that, you're going to need obviously your bits and pieces to pull it all apart. So these are actually a torque screw on this one. What is it, a T35 I think it was from memory. So you just take it out your action bolts on this one. So this one actually, part of your action bolts holds in the Detachable Mag Kit. So the bonus with the Excl Lite too, it takes all your factory Howa. Got to get that actually stabilised because she's just going to drop just a little bit. There we go. So that'll be the Detachable Mag Kit and trigger guard for the Howa stock. Stock just comes off. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but all this had to be shaved right down. So it's actually quite a big difference from the stock because it was actually rubbing on, well, essentially this end, which is a sporter barrel. So I wasn't too impressed by that. I mean, it took me a couple of hours, but it fits. But as I said, I saw the Excl Lite come up and I had to buy it really. So there's your barreled action. Nice, easy to do. So essentially all we're going to do is we're going to get this one up on the stand. We're going to fit in the barreled action and whack in some bolts. So as I said, it only came with one action bolt in the kit, which is going to be this socket cap screw here, which means I'm actually going to reuse one of these action bolts here, which will be the longer one to fit up inside there because the mounting is a little bit different. So it's essentially just picking up your action, dropping it in, ensuring it all lines up. Now this is where the fun part comes in because I can't really use the mount for it to initially get this started. That'll be your first bolt. Now because I'm using 2 different action ones, it's going to require 2 different bolts, 2 different tools. So this one was the Torx 35 because it's your factory bolt. Let me just get a bit of a fiddle going. There we go. Now, technically you're supposed to do them up to torque spec, but I've always just nipped them up, and that was about it for me. So, but I've never had any dramas with the way that I do things. I'm not long range shooting, so it doesn't really matter all that much to me. Alrighty, because I don't have a spanner with me, we'll just do things this way. Handy to always have a Leatherman. Comes in handy more often than not. So that's how we're looking at the moment for it sitting in the barrel. Not too bad, plenty of room around the front there. It's not touching like the Hogue stock was. Yeah, the next thing that I would normally do is chuck the bolt in there, make sure there's no issues cycling. There's no interference anywhere, so quite happy with that. Pull that one out. Next thing to double check is magazine fitment. Fits extremely well. This is a 10-round magazine as mentioned before. Magazine release is just like the front here. Nice and easy. So that's it for essentially fitting it to your stock. Now, of course, I've got to put the scope and that on, so nice easy job here. As I said, I'm using the 7600 two-piece mounts. I will later on change that up just a smidgen, but at this point it'll do me perfectly fine. So generally I will recommend Loctite on this sort of stuff, medium strength, but I'll be changing this in the very near future, as soon as the Zero MOA one piece actually comes in a stock. If you don't have medium strength Loctite, you can get away with running nail polish. So it'll do fairly similar job, and just stop some rattling loose every time you shoot. So with that action, that out of the way. So yeah, that was nice and easy as well. Now here comes the fun part. This is where we're going to require another tool in a second. So we've got my low scope rings. They're a double lockdown style. So we're going to have to pull that head off there. Now this is, in a minute you'll see why I do recommend a gun stand or some type that keeps everything nice and even and secure while you're working around it. At some other stage I probably might update my rings a little bit, but I've had these rings for donkey's years. I've actually got a whole bloody ammo case full of rings because I'm very particular with the heights and all that sort of stuff. Essentially just taking the top caps off. Get them level on there. Alright, now our Leatherman comes in handy again. Get them nice and snugged up. Once again, I would recommend at least some Loctite nail polish just to stop them from rattling loose, but all this will come apart when I get my new rail. Alrighty, so my next bit of kit's got to actually be a set of scope levels. So that's essentially them there. There's no particular brand that I find better than any other, but once I got a magnet, happy days. So you obviously want one up there, and because it's sitting in this stand here, you can actually get it holding level. It's going to be a little bit of play and all that, and this is where it's got to get very careful when you start adding your scope. And we've got the scope on there. Just double check she's all still staying level. And your next magnet's going to be sitting up on top of the scope here, so you can actually rotate around. So this scope's going to run level with your rifle there. This stops it from having a sort of cockeyed crosshairs when you look through it, which at a distance after you sight in can make a very big difference to where that projectile is landing. So I'll get these sort of snugged up, because what you'll find is when you start tightening these down, the scope will rotate just a little bit, and with all this bouncing around as well, you will upset the balance of everything. So you get them sort of loose so you can still rotate it. And get that one down on there as well. Alrighty, so we can still rotate that one. Now we want to double check the rifle's still nice and level. Now we'll rotate the scope so she's nice and level as well. That's where all the finicky sort of stuff comes in. You've got to be a bit patient, take your time with it all. So at the moment we're actually sitting dead level. I might nip these up just a little bit more. And straight off the bat, after I tighten that off, she's actually come off level. So what you've got to do is undo them all. Now notice that it actually ran closer to me when I tighten them up. So what we'll do is offset level just a little bit more. Nip it down. Double check she's in the center. We've rotated the rifle just a little bit. That's in the center. Scope's still a little bit too much off. I mean, we're talking a little tiny bit, but as I said, it makes a big difference down range after it's sighted in for a certain distance. So we've got them loosened off again. Let's get them tightened. It always pays to tighten up the same one every time, because that's the one that's actually rotating the scope. This is where your gun clamps will come in handy, because as you can see, every time I touch it, it's slightly rotating the rifle. And we've got that in a happy center there. Let's nip that one back up. As you can see, I'm not actually reefing down on these just yet, so I've still got the front to go. Now, in my experience, I haven't really had the front change it much after I've clamped down the rear, but stranger things have happened. Now we've got them all nipped up, we're just double checking center again. Nice and even, so I'll pull these ones off, pull that out of the way for the moment. Now, I like to do them in a cross pattern when I'm tightening things up. Now, technically these are supposed to be torqued to spec as well, but once again, never had any sort of issue if I just nip things up. So after I double check this level, we'll go back. Yep, everything stayed nice and centered. So these can come back off. Now that was quick, easy, painless, with minimum tools. Now we'll chuck this out of the way. Now I just wanted to grab the scale quickly, because as I said, the Excl Lite here was 830 grams, 860 grams, sorry. Factory Hogue stock. Or the cheap Hogue stock. The Hogue stock actually weighs, we're bouncing around about the kilo mark for your Hogue stock and detachable mag bit, which only weighs 37 grams, so bit of a weight difference and, in my opinion, a much better upgrade. So yeah, basically now I'm ready to take it out, get it sighted in, and have a bit of fun. But future upgrades, as pre-mentioned about the rails there, I wouldn't mind a single piece along there, just stiffens everything up a bit. Might raise the scope a little bit more too. And I wouldn't mind changing this to a heavy barrel, because I'm a heavy barrel sort of fan, not so much a sporter fan. That's what sort of disappointed me about this setup, was it was classed as a heavy sporter, which is still better than a sporter. But yeah, as you can see, she's pretty tidy looking rifle now. It's going to be a bit more comfortable. I did lose some weight as well, as you saw, 860 grams for the Excl Lite, as opposed to about 1 kilo for the Howa stock. So maybe tactical is the way to go sometimes if you're trying to save on weight. But once I drop that heavy barrel on there, it might weigh things up a little bit more. But yeah, everything's nice and happy. The next thing to do is to actually cycle some ammunition through it to make sure everything's level and nice. I don't have any snap caps, and I'm not about to load live ammunition through this, even with the safety on, just out of safety and principle, really. So yeah, hopefully this has given you some tips on how to go about it all, how simple it is, especially when things are made for each other. From memory, I think the stock retails around the $280 to $300 mark, depending on where you get them from. So it's actually not an overly expensive stock either. So yeah, hopefully this has been a help and a bit of a look into the Excl Lite stock, and a bit of a look at the Howa 1500 heavy sporter barrel 300 Blackout.